I shouldn't have to give a persuasive speech. Not only should I not have to give a persuasive speech, I think none of us in this club ought to have to give a persuasive speech. You may be asking yourselves why. I don't think persuasion works. I'm not good at it. I haven't had a lot of success with a persuasive speech, so I don't think we should have to give this speech. To persuade is defined as to prevail on a person to do something by advising or urging. To induce to believe by appealing to reason or understanding. To convince. My aversion to persuasion is the hard sell. It's someone trying to get me to do something or influence me, tell me, urge me, or impel me. All of those are synonyms of persuade. I'm going to talk to you about why I think we should strike the persuasive speech from the manual. I'm going to give you some examples of my attempts at persuasion and how they failed. And then I will give you some tips about perhaps why, some tips on maybe if we changed a little how persuasion might be able to be a little bit more effective. So when I was preparing for this speech, which has been several weeks in process, I was talking with Margaret Stevens, and she said, "What speech are you on? What speech are you going to give next?" And I said, "I have to give a persuasive speech." I said, "I just don't want to do it." She said, "Oh, that's surprising. Most people would love to give a persuasive speech because they get to talk about something they're passionate about." I thought, great, I lack passion. That's just what I needed to hear. That was not what Margaret intended, of course. So I started thinking back and thinking, what am I passionate about? Many of you know that I have hobbies. I love to needlepoint. I've given several speeches about how I like to needlepoint. I also love to travel, and I've talked about that several times in my speeches. My problem lies in the fact that I like to needlepoint and travel, but I don't care if you do or not. I'm not going to waste my effort trying to persuade you to become a needlepointer. I've been in this club for 2 years, and I dare say, not one of you has picked up a needle. Some of you have probably traveled since I've known you, but I'm sure it's not as a direct result of my saying, you should go out and see the world. So I just don't think that persuasion is something that I'm really passionate about. I don't really care what other people do. It's not that I'm not interested in you all as individuals. It's that I just really believe in the philosophy of live and let live. You can do what you want to do, and that makes me happy. I get to do what I want to do, and that makes me happy. I don't want to make you into clones of me. There are millions of opportunities and interests that people can have. I want friends who have diverse interests because I can learn from you that way. I don't want everybody to have the same interests that I have because that would be a little bit boring. So I'm not going to spend my time and effort to persuade you to become needlepointers, although it is a fun hobby. That leads me to my second point about why I think people don't lend themselves well to being persuaded. Maybe in your life, and it's because they're stubborn. Maybe in your life you have lots of servile people who like to please you and do what you want them to do just to make you happy. I don't have people like that in my family. I have stubborn people who want to do their own things. For example, both of my brothers smoke. They have always smoked. We've smoked since we were children. And yes, I add we in there because they used to hold me down and hold my nose and give idiot torture on me and put a cigarette in my mouth so I would smoke. That way, if I told on them for smoking, they could tell on me too. So I don't enjoy smoking. I quit when I was about 9, and I just don't like it at all. It left a bad taste in my mouth, and it was not something that I understood. However, I have begged, pleaded, screamed, yelled, cussed, and shown pictures of dead people's lungs, you know, to my brothers, they still smoke. I don't understand it. But they're stubborn and nothing will work with that. I can't get them to do anything about it. My next point is that third people are not easily persuaded because they like their comfort zones. I will admit that my comfort zone is much larger than most people's. I like to do interesting things and things that are beyond my ability, things that I'm not convinced that I'm able to do because I like to see if I can do it. But the thing is, I'm choosing to do those things, not because someone is forcing me or urging me or impelling me to do them. I like to be able to choose what I'm doing. The only other experiences that I have with persuasion are trying to find a husband. So clearly I'm single. I haven't been able to succeed at that either. So I would like to think that perhaps persuasion could be a little bit more effective if it were not as forceful and perhaps just a little more gentle. If people didn't force you to do something or urge you to do something, but just kind of gently reminded you of something, that would be better, in my opinion. I have an example of a friend of mine. We recently had a discussion, and she likes to listen to books on tape. She told me that I should listen to books on tape as well. I told her that, in fact, I have listened to books on tape and I don't enjoy it. I prefer reading the books. She said, no, you should like reading books, listening to books on tape, and you should be more open-minded. Perhaps one of the ways she could have encouraged me to do that was to lend me a book on tape, and then I could try it again, and maybe that would persuade me to change my mind. That would be a gentle, kinder way of persuading. So in conclusion, I've listed a few things for you, a few reasons why I think we shouldn't have to give a persuasive speech, because I don't think persuasion works. I think that people are stubborn. I like the live and let live philosophy. And I think that we should take a vote now to say that I don't have to give a persuasive speech. Except I've just completed my persuasive speech. Another futile attempt. So.